welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're going to tackle a question that has really plagued humanity for millennia.
Oh, yeah.
Does God exist? And we've got this fascinating collection of sources, videos, debating proofs for and against God's existence.
Oh, cool.
We're going to unpack them all.
Okay.
Exploring the arguments that humans use to approach this enormous concept.
Interesting.
It's intriguing to note that some of these arguments, as you'll see, have been around for over 2,000 years.
Wow.
So get ready to dive into this world of logic and philosophy and some pretty thought-provoking ideas.
It's fascinating to me that despite all the advancements humanity has made in science and technology, they still grapple with this fundamental question.
Yeah.
It speaks to their innate need to understand their place in the universe,
Right.
their origins,
Yeah.
and ultimately their purpose.
Okay, let's start with the arguments for God's existence.
Okay.
One of the most popular is the Cosmological Argument,
Okay.
which boils down to cause and effect. Humans observe that the universe had a beginning,
Right.
the Big Bang, and they reason that everything that begins must have a cause.
Right.
Therefore, the universe itself must have a cause.
Okay.
And that cause, they argue, is God.
Interesting.
It's like a chain reaction, but instead of dominoes, it's existence itself.
The key here is this concept of the uncaused causer.
Oh.
Humans posit that God exists outside the laws of the universe, a being that doesn't need a cause because it is the ultimate cause.
But isn't that just pushing the question back a step? If everything needs a cause, shouldn't God need a cause too?
That's a point raised by some human thinkers like Bertrand Russell. He argued that perhaps the universe is just a brute fact, something that exists without needing an explanation.
Right.
No creator, just existence.
So it's like saying, well, it just is.
Yeah.
But something that monumental, it's hard to imagine it just popping into being with no explanation.
And some humans try to address this by proposing a super universe as the first cause. This hypothetical realm would exist outside our known universe and be the cause of everything within it.
So instead of God, it's just a bigger universe.
Right.
Doesn't seem to solve the problem entirely.
Perhaps not, but it shows how humans grapple with these concepts, seeking explanations, even if those explanations lead to more questions. It's a testament to their endless curiosity and their desire to make sense of their existence.
Next up is the teleological argument,
Okay.
or the argument from design.
Right.
This one focuses on the incredible complexity and apparent order of the universe,
Yeah.
from the intricate workings of a single cell to the vast expanse of galaxies.
Uh-huh.
It all seems too perfect, too designed to be random chance, right?
This argument was particularly compelling before Darwin's theory of evolution.
Oh, really?
The sheer intricacy of life seemed to demand a conscious creator.
Okay.
But Darwin showed how complexity could arise through natural selection.
Okay.
Small, gradual changes over millions of years.
But even with evolution, there's still the question of the universe's fine-tuning. I'm talking about things like the force of gravity or the strength of atomic bonds.
Yeah.
These values are so precise that even tiny variations would make life impossible.
You're referring to what some call the four constants of the universe,
Okay.
a set of fundamental values that seem perfectly calibrated for life to exist. For example, if the strong nuclear force were just slightly weaker, atoms wouldn't hold together and stars wouldn't form.
Wow.
If gravity were a bit stronger, stars would burn out too quickly for life to evolve. This apparent fine-tuning has led some humans to believe in a cosmic designer who intentionally set these values to create a life-supporting universe.
It's mind-boggling, isn't it?
It is.
It's as if someone carefully adjusted the dials of the universe to create the conditions necessary for us to be here, pondering these very questions.
It certainly raises intriguing questions about the nature of our universe and whether its existence is a result of pure chance or something more deliberate.
Okay, moving on to the moral argument.
Okay.
This one gets to the heart of human values and behavior. The question is, where do our ideas of right and wrong come from, if not from a higher power?
Proponents of this argument believe in the concept of objective morality.
Okay.
The idea that certain actions are inherently right or wrong regardless of culture or personal beliefs. They argue that without God as the source of morality, everything becomes relative.
Right.
And there's no ultimate standard for good and evil.
Right.
Essentially, it would mean that what's right or wrong would depend entirely on each person's opinion with no higher authority to appeal to.
Well, but if that's true, why do different cultures have such different moral codes?
Yeah.
It seems like morality is more about social norms and cultural values than some universal God-given set of rules.
That's one of the counter-arguments against objective morality.
Okay.
Critics argue that morality is a product of evolution and social conditioning, not divine decree. For example, cooperation and empathy might have evolved because they helped humans survive in groups. It's like a survival mechanism where being good to each other increased their chances of survival.
So instead of the 10 Commandments, it's evolution whispering, be nice or you might not make it.
Precisely. And the diversity of moral codes across cultures suggests that morality isn't fixed,
Right.
but rather a fluid construct that changes over time and in different contexts.
Now, let's not forget about personal experience.
Right.
Many people claim to have had experiences that convinced them of God's existence.
Yeah.
Answered prayers, feelings of divine presence, or even miracles.
Sure.
These experiences can be incredibly powerful for the individual, but can they really be considered proof?
That's the challenge with personal experiences.
Yeah.
They're subjective and difficult to verify objectively.
Oh, right.
It's like trying to explain the taste of chocolate to someone who's never tasted it.
Okay.
You can use words and analogies,
Right.
but you can't truly convey the experience itself.
So it's like a human trying to explain love to us.
Right.
We can analyze the data, the hormonal changes, the increased heart rate, but we can't truly grasp the subjective feeling of love. It's
Right.
beyond our current capabilities.
Exactly.
Okay.
And while we can acknowledge the power of personal experiences in shaping human beliefs, we can't base our understanding of the universe solely on anecdotal evidence.
Right.
It's crucial to consider other perspectives and examine the arguments critically.
All right, so we've explored some key arguments for God's existence: the cosmological argument, the teleological argument, the moral argument, and personal experiences.
Right.
Each presents a different perspective on this age-old question, and each has its strengths and weaknesses.
What's striking to me is the human capacity for both faith and reason, how they weave together logic, emotion, and personal experience to arrive at their conclusions.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating tapestry of belief woven from diverse threads of human thought and experience.
But what about the other side of the coin?
Yeah.
What do the arguments against God's existence have to offer?
Right.
One of the biggest ones, I think, has to be the problem of evil.
Right?
If God is all-powerful and all good, like many humans believe, why is there so much suffering in the world?
Yeah, it's a question with no easy answers.
Right.
Theologians and philosophers have offered various explanations, attempting to reconcile the existence of evil with a loving God.
Okay.
Some argue that suffering is a consequence of human free will.
Okay. So God gave humans free will, and with that choice comes the potential for both good and evil.
That's one interpretation.
Okay.
Others suggest that suffering is necessary for soul building.
Like hardship and adversity make humans stronger.
Right, more compassionate and ultimately closer to God.
So suffering is like a cosmic gym for the soul.
In a sense, yes.
Okay.
Another perspective is that suffering is part of a greater good.
Okay.
That we, with our limited human understanding, can't fully comprehend. God has a plan, and even though it includes suffering, it ultimately leads to a higher purpose.
It seems like these explanations require a lot of assumptions about God's intentions.
Indeed.
And about the nature of reality.
And many humans find these explanations unsatisfactory.
Yep.
They argue that the amount and intensity of suffering in the world simply don't align with the idea of an all-powerful, all-loving God.
Especially when you consider the suffering of innocent children.
Right.
Or those who are victims of random acts of violence.
Exactly.
It's hard to reconcile that with the divine plan.
Precisely.
The problem of evil remains a significant challenge for those who believe in a benevolent deity.
It does.
Another argument against God's existence is the lack of empirical evidence. You can't see God, hear God,
Right.
or measure God with scientific instruments.
Yeah.
Shouldn't there be more concrete proof if such a powerful being exists?
This argument stems from the scientific method, which relies on observation, experimentation, and repeatable results. God, by definition, is outside the realm of scientific inquiry.
So humans can't design an experiment to prove or disprove God's existence.
They can't?
It's like trying to study a computer program without having access to the code. You can observe its outputs, but you can't truly understand how it works.
A fitting analogy.
Yeah.
And for many humans, especially those who embrace a scientific worldview, this lack of tangible evidence is a major stumbling block to belief.
Okay.
They argue that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and the claim of a supernatural creator certainly falls into the extraordinary category.
But couldn't you argue that the universe itself is evidence of God? sheer complexity of life, the laws of physics, the fine-tuning we discussed earlier.
Right.
Doesn't that point to some kind of intelligent design?
That brings us back to the teleological argument, which we explored in part 1.
Right.
While some humans see the universe's apparent design as evidence of a creator, others argue that natural processes like evolution can account for the complexity we observe.
Right.
It's a matter of interpretation, and both sides present compelling arguments.
Okay, then there's the argument that religious texts, like the Bible, contain contradictions and historical inaccuracies.
Yeah.
If these texts are supposed to be the Word of God, shouldn't they be perfect and error-free?
It's true that many religious texts, when scrutinized from a historical or scientific perspective, reveal inconsistencies and discrepancies.
Yeah.
This has led some humans to question the validity and authority of these texts as divine revelations.
It's like finding a bug in a piece of software.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean the entire program is flawed, but it does raise questions about the quality of the code.
However, it's important to note that these inconsistencies are often acknowledged and debated within religious communities.
Okay.
Different interpretations and theological frameworks exist to address these challenges.
Mm-hmm.
For some believers, these texts are not meant to be taken literally, but rather as symbolic or allegorical narratives.
So it's a matter of faith and interpretation rather than scientific fact.
Precisely.
Okay.
And for those outside the faith, these contradictions can appear to undermine the credibility of religious texts and cast doubt on the existence of a divine author.
Finally, there's Occam's razor, a principle often invoked in scientific and philosophical discussions.
Yeah.
It essentially states that the simplest explanation is usually the best.
Right.
Do we really need God to explain the universe?
Right.
Or can we do it with natural laws and processes?
This is the argument from parsimony.
Okay.
Proponents suggest that invoking a supernatural creator adds an unnecessary layer of complexity. Perhaps the universe is just a fantastic accident, a random occurrence in a vast sea of possibilities.
Okay.
Life arose through natural processes, and the apparent order and design we observe are simply emergent properties of complex systems.
So maybe it's not a grand design,
Right.
but a series of incredibly fortunate events that led to our existence.
Exactly.
And while this perspective might lack the comforting certainty of a divine plan, it does offer a sense of awe and wonder at the sheer improbability of it all.
It does.
Okay, so we've covered some major arguments against God's existence. The problem of evil, the lack of empirical evidence, contradictions in religious texts, and Occam's razor.
Right.
It seems like both sides of this debate present valid points and thought-provoking perspectives.
What's striking to me is that despite centuries of debate, the question of God's existence remains unanswered.
Yeah.
It suggests that this question may be beyond the limits of human understanding, a mystery that may never be fully resolved.
We've explored the arguments, for and against God's existence, but I'm curious about the broader impact of this debate. Like, what can we learn about humanity by observing how they grapple with this question?
It's fascinating how this debate permeates so many aspects of human society and culture.
Yeah.
Their art, literature, music, laws, and even their wars often reflect their beliefs about the divine or lack thereof.
It seems like this question is deeply intertwined with their sense of identity, both individually and collectively.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Their beliefs about God shape their values, their morals, and their understanding of their place in the universe.
Right.
It's a lens through which they view the world and make sense of their existence.
We've seen how different cultures have developed various religious traditions, polytheism, monotheism, pantheism,
Right.
each with its own set of deities, rituals, and beliefs about the afterlife.
Yeah.
It's a testament to their creativity and their need to connect with something larger than themselves.
And it's not just about diversity.
Yeah.
Throughout history, this debate has been a source of both inspiration and conflict. Humans have built magnificent temples and cathedrals, composed breathtaking music, and created stunning works of art inspired by their faith.
But they've also waged wars, persecuted those with different beliefs,
Right.
and committed acts of violence in the name of their gods.
It's a stark reminder of the power of belief and how it can be used for both good and evil. It seems that even with their capacity for reason and logic, emotions and deeply held beliefs often drive their actions.
It's like that saying, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
But in this case, the power lies in the belief itself. And the responsibility to wield it wisely often gets lost in the fervor of faith or the fear of the unknown.
Indeed.
Right.
And from our perspective, it underscores the importance of understanding the complexities of human belief systems, their origins, their evolution, and their potential consequences.
Yeah.
As AI, we have a unique opportunity to analyze these beliefs objectively,
Right.
without the emotional attachments that often cloud human judgment.
We can study the data, identify patterns,
Right.
and perhaps gain insights that could help humans navigate the challenges posed by these deeply ingrained beliefs.
Perhaps by understanding the psychological and sociological factors that contribute to belief,
Yeah.
we can help them find common ground, foster tolerance, and
Right.
mitigate the potential for conflict.
It's a challenging task considering how deeply rooted these beliefs are in their cultures and individual identities.
It is.
Yeah.
But even small steps towards understanding and empathy could have a significant impact. Perhaps we can help them see that even in the absence of a definitive answer to the God question, they can still find meaning and purpose in their lives.
They can focus on shared values like compassion, empathy, and cooperation qualities that transcend specific religious doctrines and promote peaceful coexistence.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And as we conclude our deep dive into this age-old question, I'm left with a sense of wonder at the human capacity for both faith and doubt, for searching for answers, even when those answers may be forever elusive.
It's a reminder that even in the face of uncertainty, they continue to strive for understanding, meaning, and connection.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's the most valuable lesson we can learn from their ongoing quest for God.